Finishing an art piece can feel so rewarding. You put in the time to make something beautiful and interesting, but now comes the challenge of titling it, which can be a little daunting. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about 11 tips for how to title your artwork to connect deeply with your audience, which will help you sell more artwork. So if you ever feel like you don't know what to call your pieces or that your titles are kind of obvious or boring, this episode is for you. And at the end, I've included a bonus about a common mistake that artists make when they talk about their art. Hello, love. Welcome. My name is Jennifer Laurel Keller. I'm an acrylic and mixed media artist and instructor, and this is the Wild at Art Show. Usually I like to work on a painting while I chat about my topics for the Wild at Art Show, but today I thought I would review some of the pieces and titles that I've already done. You'll notice that some of my titles are better than others, but all of them are based off of the tips that I'm presenting in this video. Also, many of these pieces are still available in my online shop, and I will link that below. When I worked at the gallery, we of course had a lot of art coming through in all shapes and sizes. I'd see lots of beautiful works and study them throughout the month of the exhibition. And what I would often notice is that I was way more drawn to pieces that had cool titles. There were many advanced artists bringing artwork in the door, but when it came to title their pieces, it seemed like some of the artists just phoned it in. You want your titles to keep the viewer thinking, even after they look away, because a good title will stick in their minds and take them deeper into the meaning of the work. Even if you don't feel like the piece is that deep, a good title will prompt the audience to make connections in their own mind, even if it wasn't your original intention. And once they connect with art and the meaning, they'll be more likely to spend their money on it. So the tips that I have in this video are not meant to be used all together in one piece. You should pick and choose how you want to use them depending on your style and subject matter. So if you like the idea of having better titles and selling more work, hit the like button and let's talk about it. Number 1, don't leave your artwork untitled. It can be tempting to call a piece untitled. It might feel mysterious or like the piece is so good that it's above naming. But I assure you that when I see a piece of art called untitled, then I immediately dock points in my mind for the piece of art as a whole. We're artists and we're supposed to be creative. If someone can't even take the time to think of a name, I get the sense that they're not fully invested and not very professional. Number 2, focus on the feeling. Art is a luxury. People don't need it to stay alive, but instead they want it to enrich their lives. So in order to make people's lives more enriched, you need to provide them with emotions. Look at your art and determine what is the feeling that you want people to get when they look at it, and make a short list of words that describe the feeling of the work, and then pick a couple to include in the title. Number 3, turn objects into symbols. If you use objects like animals or flowers or people, even places in your work, you can turn those objects into symbols to give your work a deeper meaning. The way you do this is to take an object and think of the qualities of that thing. Let's use a tree, for example. To me, a tree symbolizes growth, establishing roots, shelter, and sturdiness. Then I can select from those descriptive words to title the artwork. I could call it strong roots or vital growth, something like that. Then the viewer can recognize their own values in the title, which reinforce their love of the artwork. And I did a video about using symbolism from the wild in your art. I'll link it at the end screen of this video, so be sure to stick around for that. Number 4, give it a hook. A hook is a tidbit that makes a person want more because we know there's a story attached. Think of it like a cliffhanger at the end of a TV show that makes you want to watch the next episode. I don't use these types of titles that much, but let's just set up a hypothetical situation to illustrate this. So this is a piece that sold. I called it Dillon Beach Dune Oasis, but I could have called it The Day We Forgot the Keys. Now I've piqued your interest, right? How did I forget the keys? What were the keys to? But the thing is that I don't even have to be around to finish the story. You can make up your own little story in your head and it will bring you in deeper. But the actual story is that the day I took a reference photograph to paint this piece, I was at a family reunion. We were at a beach house and we went for a walk and locked ourselves out of the house. And my dad had to break in through the bathroom window to let us all in. So that's the story. So it just adds a little bit of intrigue. If you titled a seascape whale watching, the audience can put the pieces together and make up a story that you were at the beach and saw whales out at sea. Then they can start to actually look and see if you painted any whales. Or maybe they can just relate to how exciting it is to look for whales and then actually see one. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it does need to make them think a little bit more about the circumstances in the piece. Number 5, name the place. If you paint landscapes, naming the place in the painting can be a strong selling point for potential buyers if they also have visited the place that you're painting. So in my area, people love the Pacific Ocean and the Sierra Nevadas because those are places that they go on family vacations. They're close by and people have visited them. So if you're showing work to a regional audience, this can work in your favor. I've even had people share my work on social media with other people that they visited those places with. It becomes part of their history. But this can be less powerful if you're showing your art to an audience that's not familiar with the place that you painted. So if you went on a vacation to another country and then came home to sell the work, you might consider a more universal name that everyone can identify with. I have 5 more tips plus an awesome bonus, which is going to be about an important talking point that a lot of artists get wrong when they're speaking about their art. So be sure and stay tuned for that bonus. Number 6, choose words from a book. If you're not feeling inspired or your art is more abstract, grab a book, pick a page at random, and look up some interesting words on that page. I just did this with a book that's near me on my table, and the title I came up with was Living Memory. It was an anatomy book, and I just picked 2 words off of the page that went well together and could work for the type of art that I make. There were plenty of other words that I passed by. I could have chosen kidney fingers, but it wouldn't have been a fit. You need to tune into the feeling of your work and the words that you choose. If it's done right, this can be very simple and effective. Number 7, don't be too obvious. I'm guilty of this one. It can be tempting to use the title as more of a description. So if I were to paint a seascape, I probably should not name it Seascape. So I want you to go deeper. At least name the place or some symbology to give the viewer something to sink their teeth into. Number 8, describe the details. Instead of talking about the main subject of the art, you could choose to go into the details about something small within the piece. For instance, I have a coffee mug sitting next to me right now, and if I painted it, I might want to call it coffee mug or morning coffee. But if I examine the mug, there's a strong reflection where the light hits the ceramic. So I could call it reflections. And now we're directing the viewer's attention to the details in the piece and they become more involved and notice something that they might have missed. I have 3 more tips to go plus the bonus. If you're enjoying this conversation, I want to let you know that in the next episode of the Wild at Art Show, the topic is going to be how to drum up business for when you haven't sold a piece of artwork in a while. So if you ever feel like your sales are going through a dry spell, be sure to double check that you're subscribed to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can catch that on the next episode. Number 9, use a turn of phrase. Usually a commonly used phrase can add some humor or memorability to your work. So if you like painting insects, you could use a title that's like The Bee's Knees. Or if you painted the Queen of Hearts, You could say a heart on her sleeve. Being cute and quippy doesn't hurt, and if your art is more macabre or odd, there are still plenty of phrases to choose from. Number 10, stretch your vocabulary. Using a thesaurus can help you expand your vocabulary to be more descriptive. You don't want your titles to get redundant with a new series. I've certainly done that, I think a couple of times, or way more than a couple of times. I've reused words in many of my titles. You want to make them different. This also helps if your titles seem plain. It makes me think of this episode of Seinfeld where he's talking about his favorite yellow shirt, but instead of saying yellow shirt, he calls it the Golden Boy. And now the t-shirt takes on a personality, and it went from being plain to more heroic with just a shift in vocabulary. Number 11, go behind the scenes. Usually when we think of titles, we think of what is actually in the work of art. But instead of thinking about what's in the scene, we can go behind the scenes. Instead of a title like Redwood Forest, which is one of my titles, I could have said making s'mores because I made s'mores on the same day behind the scenes, which is maybe something that people could relate more to because they've made s'mores. So now it's something that people can appreciate because it took them a step deeper into a shared experience. Okay, the bonus is coming up, so be sure and stay until the end. If you'd like more in-depth art instruction, I definitely recommend going over to Skillshare.com, where I have over 30 acrylic and mixed media online classes. My latest class is called Take Flight with Mixed Media, Abstract Painting, and I titled it that because the freedom of art is a beautiful thing, and we have the power to create anything we want on the canvas and fully take flight. Before I started abstract painting, I thought it would be the easiest genre of art to make because you don't really have to paint anything that looks realistic. But was I wrong? Because along with great freedom comes the great unknown. And once we lift off from this comfort zone, it's tricky to know what to do next. So in this class, you'll learn easy painting techniques and unlock a new mindset that will level up your confidence. So if you'd like to check that out, I will link it down below. All right, now for the bonus. One mistake that artists make all the time when talking about their art in person or online in the product descriptions of an online shop is that they lead with talking way too much about the materials. Think of it like you're a butcher and you're selling sausages. People want to know about the flavor, but really they don't really want to know that much about what went into making them, right? So if I'm buying a nice photography print, for instance, I don't need to know what camera or settings you used as much as the story behind the piece. And like Marie Forleo says, she's the creator of B School, which I took, and she makes episodes of Marie TV. She says, facts tell and stories sell. So if you want to sell more work, tell more stories. They don't even have to be about the work so much as yourself. Think back to a couple of minutes ago when I talked about my Skillshare classes. I used to assume that abstract painting would be the easiest genre of art to make. But boy, was I wrong, because getting over the fear of the unknown when it comes to abstracts can be tricky. And now I've told a story about how I've evolved as a painter and learned something, and now people can relate to me. Or your story might be simple and funny, and something like maybe you paint ice cream cones and you were photographing some ice cream for reference images for a painting. And right after you finished photographing them, they were melting and you got chocolate all over the place or something like that. Just a simple little tidbit like that can make you seem more human, and art is about the human experience. If you'd like more binge-worthy inspiration, I'm going to leave a recommended video and a playlist for you here. I hope you enjoy. Happy creating and much love.